Let's talk about your juicy love with me, Una Drake. We explore relationships, dating, sacred union, communication, conscious love, healthy boundaries, and much more. As a dating and relationship coach for over 5 years, with a background in shamanic healing and metaphysical work, I've helped men and women, young and old, from all walks of life. My mission is to increase peace, joy, and love on planet Earth. So listen in and stay juicy.
That's us. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to hang out with Una Drake. Una!
Hi, Dr. Pat. How's it going?
Stay juicy. I love that. Before we get started, one of the things I want folks to know about you is beyond everything they just heard, you also do tarot readings. Yeah. And so I want to start talking about that before we talk about the Mirror of Venus, because sometimes, we need to bring in other tools in our conversations. Besides being a relationship expert, there are other things that you do. I know that because I know you, but our listeners don't. So let's talk a little bit, because we're going to give out some free mini tarot readings, right?
Yeah,
Tell us
absolutely.
a little bit how you integrate that in your work. Good to see you.
Yeah. Well, I've been studying tarot for almost 20 years now. So it's something that's been, you could say, core to my path. I view the tarot as really a book of wisdom. And I definitely believe in free will, but that the tarot or any other really oracular tool that you want to use can be, but especially the tarot. I mean, I use the tarot. It's a way to give us wisdom so that we can make the right decisions to move forward. It can provide kind of a snapshot of influences and a potential path, like predicted path into the future, that we can then use to make decisions in our life now. So I don't believe that our fate is sealed, that, I definitely believe in free will. So
it gives us insight. It gives us another dimension of insight.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, there's something about the different tools that we decide to use in our lifetime, right? That we look at and we say, okay, this particular tool that I resonate with gives me a ritual or a spiritual practice, and it gives me a different dimension or insight to something. And so it's going to be interesting today. I'm hoping that we can actually pull a couple of cards. I don't know if you have them in front of you today, but we can go ahead and do that for our callers. Today, we're going to be talking about the Mirror of Venus, though. Reflection, projection, and law of attraction in relationships. And, I think we could pull a couple of cards. But let's start out, with let's just start out with looking at relationships and the word mirror. 2 words: mirror, relationship.
Yeah. Well, really, whenever we're in a relationship with someone else, and that could even just be a very short term, like a very, almost momentary interaction, but in any type of interaction with another person, any kind of relationship with another, especially human being, what we notice in them almost invariably reflects about something in us, because there's other people, and the world around us is so complex that, there's thousands and thousands of things that we could notice about somebody else.
Yeah.
But the things that we do notice are very, very telling about us, and who we are and what we actually pick up on, because there are basically an infinite number of things that we could be picking up on, but we tend to notice in other people things that we, either qualities that we do possess in ourselves, or things that we maybe wish that we possessed, or qualities that for whatever reason stand out to us. And so a lot of times we think about, mirror and reflection in relationships in terms of things that bug us, because come on, dude, that's what floats to the top, right? That's what comes to the forefront of
my
our
God.
consciousness in most
I know.
cases.
It's so funny we're talking about this because, I play table tennis and I'm going off to play in a little a tournament down there in Tacoma. And Linda and I were talking about this. And I have doubles partners that, I ask people to play. So we were talking about that. I think Linda asked me the question, like, why did you pick that partner? And, on the one hand, of course, the factor is, how do we move together? I mean, this is really sort of like looking at relationships. But the other part of this, which has got like weird and fun at the same time, is I like to play with happy people. Even like if somebody is really, really good and they are like a little curmudgeon, I don't care how good they are, I can't play with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we have to look at these things when we're talking about being in a relationship, like with other people, though. Why would we be in relationship with someone that was going to present us with an issue of discomfort right out of the gate? But we do, don't we?
A lot of times people do make that choice, and I think that it's because at some level we want healing around those issues. Like at an unconscious level, I think that sometimes we choose to maybe hang out with people that do push our buttons because we need to heal those buttons. We need to heal those issues. And because no, that's kind of mostly, for the most part, I think that's unconscious in us. But there could be like a little bit of like an addiction there, I think, in a lot of cases. And maybe other people fulfill, especially like a negative relationship dynamics. I think sometimes we might have expectations that things are going to go a certain way, or that we're going to get treated a certain way in a negative sense. And there's like the other person, if someone else fulfills those expectations, then that's what we expect. Or there's, it needs to be brought into our view so that we can heal it, essentially. And I think that's partly how our inner wiring works. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. But the other thing I want to say about it is, part 2 of what we're talking about today is Venus, the mirror of Venus. And first of all, one of the things I said was, I thought Venus just doesn't get enough love. I think every time we go to one of these blockbuster movies and we see this blockbuster, there's a god from this and there's a god over here and a god over there. And, Apollo gets mentioned and we're like, where's Venus? Does anybody even care about Venus? And yet we portray Venus with a mirror. Why?
Yeah. Well, I think it really is interesting. And Venus is not always portrayed with a mirror, but that is one of her traditional symbols. And even in artwork going back to the Middle Ages and even further back, like she's associated with mirrors. And I just find that so interesting. And I think most people think of Venus as like gazing in the mirror. Oh, aren't I so beautiful? Kind of primping, which, I mean, Venus is the goddess of love and beauty. So sure, I'm sure that she likes to look in the mirror. But on a deeper level, I think it's very interesting that Venus is also the goddess of, love and relationships, and especially romantic love. And so often, it's reflection and projection that comes up in relationship dynamics. And that's one of the things that, is so prominent, like, especially if we're looking at relationships as tools to help us grow, then we want to be looking at what is coming up. What am I seeing in this mirror of relationship? I think that's one of the most valuable things that anybody can do in terms of learning from an existing relationship, or learning lessons even from the past. You might have been hurt in a past relationship, but if you can look at it from a perspective of, well, what did I learn? What was coming up? What did I see? Then it can become so much more rich, and it can become a tool to move forward on your own spiritual path and your own personal development path. Does that make sense?
Well, look, it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. The thing that I like to look at is, Do you have a pattern that you're going through where you're looking at your life and you're looking at your relationships and you're just not cutting it? You're not happy. You've come to the board like how many times, right? You're getting off the bench, you're getting in the game. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're going to like one of the sites and you're doing the thing over there. And, you've hired a professional like to write your profile. That rarely works. But in the end, you're trying to get in it only to find that you're repeating patterns, right? And juicy is not the word that Una Drake would use to describe the experience.
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, I think that it could be juicy it can be very juicy to figure out, ooh, I didn't like that. Ooh, that brought up a lot of emotions. But I mean, that's not the kind of juice that we're looking for.
No, that's certainly not it. That's like putting too much wasabi on your sushi right there. That's like where you think this green thing is, some kind of condiment, and you're taking the whole thing and you're not diluting, you're putting it on there only to find out, oh boy, did I make a mistake. Let's take a short break. Question for all of you out there. How much wasabi are you putting on your relationship? Una Drake is in the house. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the mirror of Venus. We're going to look at reflection. We're even going to ask you the question, would you date yourself? I have to ask myself the question, would I date myself? And let me go back and see, in what decade would I date myself? Would I date myself like when I was in my 20s? Let's see, how did I work with my 30s? Okay, definitely my 30s is a no. Wait, I'm getting on a tangent. We'll be right back with the show. Una Drake is going to help all of us out with that. And by the way, we've got some readings to give away, and Una's going to pull a card. We're talking about Venus. We're talking about relationships. What is on your mind, and what is a tarot card that's going to help you get moving along? We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Tarot for Love right now on the show. Tarot for Love. Why? Una Drake's in the house. We are tackling one of the most difficult questions to put on the table. And, that question is really about, we're going to get to, would you date you in a minute? But it's interesting because I saw that, preparing for the show today, I saw this as, would you date you? And I asked myself that question, would I date me? And I really went through a whole bunch of things about it. Maybe I date me if ... That's why I'm not here talking about this. Una Drake is here talking about it. Una, before we do this and before we pull tarot cards for people, how can people find out more about you? Let's talk about what you're doing. Let's talk about what's upcoming. Let's talk about how people can work with you directly on a number of things. Go ahead and give out your information if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is unadrake.com. That's UNADRAKE.com. So if you'd like to learn more about me and get a hold of me, definitely go to my website. I am, with the show, giving away 5 free mini tarot readings. So you can just email me, una@unadrake.com, with the word tarot somewhere in the email. And I'd be happy to connect with you about that. Through my site, you can also book a free relationship clarity session. So,
awesome.
I am a relationship coach. I again, have studied tarot for over almost 20 years now. I do tarot readings. I do a lot of different things, but the main way that I work with people is as a relationship coach and a dating coach. And I love helping people find love. I am kind of a devotee of Venus myself. She's a favorite goddess of mine. And I love everything that she's about, helping people find that real connection and that fulfillment in love. And that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in her symbology, especially the mirror. I find that so fascinating. But so if you want to get in contact with me, go to my website, unadrake.com. You can send me an email. You can get one of the 5 free tarot readings, or you can sign up for an unlimited number of relationship clarity sessions. That's all. You can find that through my site, Una Drake.
Well, let's go ahead and do this. For those of you out there right now, and you would like to get a tarot card for love, for love and life, give us a call, 1-800-930-2819. Because as we talk about what we're talking about today, and we're talking about, this idea of looking at our lives and then looking at how we just keep repeating the same patterns over and over, and why do we do it, and what is that mirror about? We just want to get some insight. 1-800-930-2819. For those of you that are on Facebook, okay, so I just put a little thing in there, and I said, what's your question? We'd like to pull this card for you. And I put like hashtag Tarot for Love. Jessica, Rob, and Carter are probably screaming right now, since I do not know what I do half the time on social media. But this is what we're doing here today. I would like to kick it off by going right to the phones. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Ready?
Yeah.
Una's ready. I don't know. Am I ready? Yeah, I'm a little ready. Okay, I'm ready. Betty.
Yeah, we'll take Charlene calling in from Canada. Charlene, welcome to the show.
Hey, Charlene, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, Charlene.
So
do you have like a relationship Venus question?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to figure out creative ways of putting myself out there. I have not had I've had interesting attempts through dating services, but like Dr. Pat said, it's been interesting, and it sort of put me off and backed me off. I'm just trying to figure out ways of getting myself out there again.
Okay. Well, the card I pulled for you is the Prince of Wands, which is describes a young man who is very passionate and creative. So you might have a Prince of Wands out there for you. And it could also be speaking to your own creative force and being willing to put yourself out there in a really bold way to really express your own creativity and to be fearless in how you present your true self to the world. Because when you are presenting more of your true, authentic self to the world, and that could be on an online dating service, it could be in groups where you're connecting with other people who share similar interests or similar values, but the more of yourself that you're willing to put out there so that you can attract, basically you'll create a stronger resonance for people who are a good match for you to find you and connect with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah. And I would love to talk with you in an actual relationship clarity session and give you some more specific pointers for you in particular. So you can definitely book that through my website, or just shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to set it up with you.
Yeah.
That's
so
perfect. Thank you so much.
What was the card? What was the name of the card again? Just so
the Prince of Wands.
Hold it up to the camera so everybody can see it on Facebook. Okay.
He's
wow.
Fiery, dynamic.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh, wow. Awesome. For those of you out there, we're doing this. Yep. Tarot for Love today. 1-800-930-2819. All right. So this idea of the mirror and Venus, I mean, why? Why would we do paintings and pictures of Venus in the mirror? You know, part of what we were talking about earlier is Venus has got this rap about being all about the look, all about the swagger, all, you know what I mean? All about that. Yet
a lot of people, I think, view Venus as being kind of shallow because she's, just beauty and love. But think about it. It's beauty and love, and it's your desire nature. I mean, without that, where would you be? So I think that she doesn't get the respect that she deserves a lot of times.
I agree with you because honestly, we were given an ego for a reason. Everybody likes to badmouth the ego. But, part of this is really learning how to, energetically integrate and create a harmony in all of who we are, right?
Right?
To create that harmony in all of who we are.
And it's also about owning our own beauty, because I think that this also connects with the idea of the mirror, that if you are able to own your own beauty, you're much more able to see the beauty in other people too. So that I think sometimes, especially in the beginning stages of a love relationship, we can idolize our partner or our love interest, and we can kind of project onto them in a positive sense all of the wonderful, beautiful qualities that we wish that we had, but maybe we haven't learned to recognize those qualities within our own self. But the more able that we are able to really recognize and claim our own beauty and our own worth and our own good qualities, then we can really own it and then form an authentic relationship with someone else who also models those qualities, instead of just seeking them in another person, like seeking what we feel that we lack through a relationship, which can then, basically we know the pattern in that. If we are just seeking what we think that we lack in another person, then ultimately, the love phase is, we're going to fall out of love, and then we'll just start noticing and projecting, and we'll see the reflection of the qualities that are not favorite qualities in our partner, which will bug us, and then we'll repeat the cycle again with somebody else, once the first relationship dissolves.
Yeah, because that is really what we're talking about today. Is what we want to give some insight into is the reason for Venus to look in the mirror isn't to really look at whether or not her lipstick is on right. It's really to look deeply into the mirror, in a way that allows us to show up as all that we could possibly be. And that's really the work that you do, is to help people come forward with that, because maybe you had a tough life. Maybe you weren't told you were good enough, right? Maybe, you grew up with people that were highly critical of you. So no matter what you do, or no matter what you look at in the mirror, it's never going to be good enough. And, that's part of helping really look at that inner work, Una, that you do with people. Because if we're not going to take care of that, I don't care how many mirrors you have. It's going to be like mirror, mirror on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's where you get, supermodels and, sports stars who still have, self-esteem issues, for example. People who seem to have everything going on, or seem to have all the beauty or success that anyone could want, and yet inside they still feel empty. That's not what you want. You want that real authentic feeling inside, completely permeating your being, that you're enough and that you're awesome. I think that's what Venus is all about. And there's also, I think, a sense of, looking at the world, what we see around us is inherently a reflection of what's inside. And different people can look at the same environment or the same circumstances and see completely different things. I'm thinking of a line from a song that I heard recently about, like, someone can travel an oasis but still have a desert in their eye. So so whether you see desert or oasis, a lot of times depends on you. It depends on what's inside. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying?
Well, part of this, though, too, is first of all, you got to be willing to take a look. And I think so often we run into a speed bump around that. We run into a speed bump around, am I willing to take a look? We're going to take a short break. When we come back, We've got Linda. We're going to get right to the phone and we'll get right to you. For those of you out there, you can find out more about Una at unadrake.com. 1-800-930-2819 is our call-in to get your tarot for love today. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. Yeah, boy. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. It's great. You're listening to Juicy Love. And that is something that I get to hang out and do with Una Drake every month. Very, very cool. You know, today what we're doing is we are talking about the mirror of Venus, reflection, projection, and the law of attraction. And we're talking about the law of attraction here right now. You know, much has been said about the law of attraction, but one of the things that I've learned over time is that it isn't just about a vision board. It's about what is my emotional state when I'm creating any intention whatsoever. You know, what is my emotional state? You know, am I going to think about love and be cringing every time I go to think about it? Or, you know, how are you feeling when you're sitting down at your online dating profile and you're trying to figure out the best things to say? Well, that's what today's show is about. Take a good look in Venus's mirror. And we're talking about that. Today, we're talking about also in this segment, reflection, projection in relationships. And yeah, Una talks about 3 fingers pointing back at you. Yes, indeed. Right, Una? And then we're going to go to the phone to Linda.
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime you are pointing out something in someone else, you've got to recognize that there's, in general, 3 fingers pointed right back at you. So this can be a positive or in a negative sense, you know, but generally what we notice in other people, we have those qualities to at least some degree in ourselves. And it's helpful to recognize that even ideally before we point it out in someone else, but at least to recognize it in ourselves as we're pointing it out in someone else. So we're not just saying, it's all you.
Ah, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's not all you. Let's go to the phones, Mr. Benny.
Sure, we'll take Linda calling in from Pennsylvania. Hello, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Do you have a question that you'd like me to pull a card on?
I'm hoping to get into an involved relationship. I was wondering whether there's anything I should change about my relationship approach.
Okay. Well, let's see what comes up. All right. Okay. I am getting the Princess of Swords. Now, the Princess of Swords, she tends to be a dynamic young woman who really speaks her truth, but can sometimes come off as kind of abrasive or cutting to other people. So I don't know if that's something that you recognize, but you asked about what you can change. And the Princess of Swords, I guess not knowing anything about you, but my advice would be to, yes, speak your truth, but be aware of how it might come off to others. And there might be some instances in which you need to, in which you might soften your approach. And there might be other cases where you need to be very forthright. So I guess that would depend on the situation. But this card, the Princess of Swords, is it's about portrays a young woman, and the swords are the element of air, which is often words, thoughts. I'm guessing you're very smart and you don't have trouble speaking your own mind and letting other people know what you think. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. And what things have been coming up? Like what kind of stumbling blocks have been coming up in relationships? If you don't mind going into that.
Well, right now he's just my best friend, you know. I'm just very much in love with him. And I guess the biggest problem is like time-wise.
Finding the time to spend?
Yeah, because he can be very busy.
Okay.
Very busy. Okay.
And does he feel the same way about you as you feel about him?
I do know that he likes me a lot and loves me a lot. But I think I might love him more than he loves me, but I think something's there though.
Okay. It might be worth having that conversation to clarify what, where things actually are. And that would speak to the Princess of Swords and speaking your truth in a way that he doesn't feel pressured either way. You don't want to pressure him into a relationship, but you do want to make sure that he knows how you feel. And you need that truth. You need the truth from him to know where he stands and where you guys both are. And if you both want the same thing, then you can build a relationship together and maybe work together to find more time to build that relationship that you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I know it can be very scary to be that forthright, especially in a situation where you do love him. But my advice would be that, having that clarifying conversation is going to help you one way or another. It's bringing that clarity to the relationship will either help you both recognize that you're on the same page and figure out how you're going to bring it forward, or if he's not on the same page, then you can free yourself to move on to a relationship that is going to actually work for you. I hope that helps.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And feel free to schedule a relationship clarity session through my website.
Yeah, that would be awesome to do. That would be great. Part of this really is really looking at getting an understanding about ourselves in the context of another person. I don't know about you, but I think one of the more painful experiences in my life was not being at the same place that the other person was at and not knowing that. See, I don't know if it is because we don't want to know that we don't ask or we don't pursue it. But I look back at a couple of relationships of mine and I think, wow, if I would have known that, that relationship would have probably ended 5 years earlier. How important is it to have these conversations? And I got to tell you, I don't know that I could have done it without working with somebody like you. You know what I mean? It's not an easy one, but it's got to be important.
It's super, super important. It's, having, truth and clarity in a relationship. It's hard for me to think of anything more important than that, like in terms of a relationship. I mean, because if you're on one page and your partner is on a different page, or the person that you are hoping or thinking is your partner is on a different page, then, you could be spending literally years of your life, like you said, like 5 years, that you might have not been in that relationship had you been truly aware of how the other person was feeling. Does that make sense?
It does. Part of this is that you got to take some action on your own behalf. And sometimes that is the most difficult thing to do. And so when we're looking at the answer to your question of, would I date me, right? When we take a look at that question, would I date me? Part of the answer also has to be, am I being honest about where I am currently? And what am I going to be willing to do about that? Because even though the information that might be coming back now could be very difficult to process, difficult to hear, it was way more difficult 5 years down the road. I could tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it can be very, very challenging. Like, I'm not going to lie, it is challenging to have those kind of conversations. Because inherently, we all have some attachment to what we want the outcome to be, you know? Yeah. We want the other person to say, oh, I feel the same way. Yes, let's do this, you know? Or however it is, you know, that you feel. But, you know, the thing is that, and so I think a lot of us avoid having those conversations because we're not sure if they feel that way. And we want to move forward as if they do, or as if they're going to come around to it at some point. But I think one of the things to do first is to ask yourself, you know, how is the other person showing up? You know, am I happy in this relationship? And so, like, for example, you know, if you're not feeling like your partner's spending enough time with you, if you're not feeling like your partner's showing you the respect that you want, or, you know, treating you the way that you want, or et cetera, then you've got to have that conversation and say, you know, I really love you. I care about you. And I want to know where you're at so that I can be clear, you know?
Well, listen, we got Janine is watching us on Facebook. Hi, Janine. How you doing? And she'd like a card to be pulled. So let's get to that.
Okay.
So Janine is like, yeah, I would love to find my true love. Oh, boy.
All right.
A good man. Well, let me finish. A good man who could be part of a team with me, who is loving, kind, and nurturing. Boom. I love that, Janine. Thank you, Janine. So, okay, what did you pull? Here you go. Here's your card.
The card of the High Priestess, which is a powerful card. It's card number 2 of the Major Arcana. And it speaks to, so Janine, I would say the message for you would be to use your intuition and use your intuitive gifts, and tune into a man who can appreciate those in you. I'm guessing that if you're listening to the show, you probably might be already on a path of exploring your own intuition and your own spiritual gifts. And I'm guessing that you want a man who shares that with you. So the High Priestess is saying, you know, definitely embrace that part of yourself. And you might be able to follow your own intuition to find that partner that you're looking for. And you can also book a relationship clarity session with me. Because,
Janine, I would do that. Give out your phone number again. I'll type it actually in here in Facebook.
Well, my
your
website,
email.
My email is una@unadrake.com. una@unadrake.com. Yeah. Email me. I'd love to talk with you.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to just say about this, let me just type that in. Oh my gosh, you got to be like multitasking. And maybe Rob will put that information up on Facebook Live. One of the things that I found out about that part of me, so I went through a period of time where I thought, you know, I really want to find a partner like this, like Janine, loving, team, part of my team, kind, nurturing. So my friend turned to me and said, "Oh, honey, you're looking for love in all the wrong places," and said to me, "Why don't you go volunteer?" And so I had just moved to Seattle, right? And I hadn't been in a relationship for a little bit, moved to Seattle. And so I started to volunteer. I lived up on Capitol Hill. So I started to volunteer for Chicken Soup Brigade, right? You know, making food and delivering it to people, right, that AIDS folks in the community. And you know what I found is that's true. If you want people of a certain nature, right, then you got to somehow put yourself in a place where those people are going to show up. And so, you know, for a lot of folks, you got to figure that part out too, right? If you are like early part of my life, I was a biker chick. So all of a sudden you're riding the Harley and you're riding the bikes. So you want to be around those people. So what do? That's what you do. Yeah. But then when you don't want a relationship anymore that has to do with a Harley, because I love my Harley, because you can't ride your Harley anymore, then you got to figure something else out. And so the old ways of seeking love may not work for you. I'm going to tell you, if you live in the Pacific Northwest and you are dating, one of the things you have to, this is now me being a little bit snarly, one of the things you have to love is either coffee or green tea. That's what I learned about the Pacific Northwest, right? Because that is one of the ways we do connect, right? Oh, and then the other thing is hiking.
Yep. Those are the classics.
Oh my God, don't email me. No, I'm not stereotyping the Pacific Northwest. I got Jessica sitting right next door, and she's like been hiking like 2 weekends in the row. So it's on my mind. But it is true. You have to be a little bit more outdoorsy or a little bit more indoorsy, because we do a lot of cool things indoors too.
For sure. And ultimately, though, I mean, you can just be yourself. And there are a lot of people around here who would be happy to connect with you.
That is true. Because, look, it's not where you live. It's really not about that. That's how we started the show. It's not about like where you live. It's like, how do you become you to the best that you can become you, regardless of where you live? If you're living in New York City, where I lived most of my life, there was the best part of me that showed up there. I live on the West Coast now in the Pacific Northwest, and I get to have the best part of me. But that is the work that you do, is to help people move beyond a situation, a breakup, shyness, low self-esteem, all of the above, right?
Yeah, those are all things that can hold you back if you let them. But there's also ways to move beyond those, perceived limitations to find that love that you're actually looking for. And that's what I love helping people with.
Well, we started the show talking about reflection and mirror. And, also with the question is, would you date you? Now, you came up with that question.
Yeah, it's a question that I often use with people. Not necessarily right off the bat, but honestly, I use it with people who have been having some dating, what I would call dating success, like attracting people, getting more dates than they're used to. But if after even attracting people, going on more dates than they have in the past year, if they're just not liking who is showing up, then and I know, like from my perspective, I know that I've worked with them to help them optimize everything that we can within our power to help them attract the best people. And from at least my perspective, they're attracting people who are decent matches. But if they're just saying, I'm not liking who's showing up, and I want someone who's like, 20 years younger and like, completely model thin when maybe they're not so model, fit, for example, then you kind of got to look in the mirror and you got to say, would I date myself? Like if I'm asking other people to date me, especially people that I perceive as like the type of people that might be in a different dating zone, for example, then you gotta look at that. Like, would I date myself?
Right. And let's just get specific though for a minute. If you are looking for a long-term relationship, like a committed relationship, you better be having a conversation about whether or not the other person is like tuned in for that. That's a different dating zone.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. And I guess I've run into this specifically, and this is what I'm specifically on my mind. Like, I worked with a client for a while who was in his 40s. He did go to the gym, but he did not have a perfect body. He was fine. I thought he was, attractive man, but he was looking for women who were significantly younger and yet didn't want to have kids because he didn't want to have kids, but he wanted women in the like prime childbearing age, but they had to be, you know, very like traditionally attractive, much, much younger than he was, and like all these other things that he kind of put on top of that. And he wasn't having that much luck. I'm sorry, I can't help people attract people who are like completely like not necessarily in their dating zone. But that's where I'm gonna. Sometimes like if you're not attracting what you say that you want, you got to say, am I a good match for what I say that I want? And if you're kind of not, then maybe there are some things, some actions that you can take to maybe put yourself, you know, maybe up your own attractiveness level, or maybe you got to say, hey, is what I'm asking for actually
I am never going to be 110 pounds. That is like, I'm just saying, I know myself well enough that is not my fighting weight. Okay. And so I'm not going to lie on the thing that I fill out in the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that sees Facebook Live, they're like looking and they're saying, no, she is not 110 pounds. But I got to really be okay with all of that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, we don't all have an Una Drake that we can go to and say, you know what, I'm like, I'm not 110. I'm really been trying all my life to go from 140 to 110. You probably look at them and say, yeah, how's that working for you? But we have to come to a place at some point where we start to really look in the mirror and say, man, I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. And part of this is really about self-acceptance. It is about saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but I like myself the way that I am, and I'm good with attracting someone who's a good match for me. And I'm going to put my best self out there so that I have the best chance of attracting someone who is a good match for who I am. Does that make sense? I mean, so
totally.
You put your best
totally
self forward so that you can attract someone who's a match for the highest part of who you are.
It also takes the insanity factor away from having a really loving relationship. It also takes that thing out of the relationship that causes us most grief.
Yeah. Because ultimately, like if you're asking for a partner who's not a good match fundamentally, then it's just not going to be a good match. Like, you know, you might attract that person who's, you know, 20 years younger and looks like a supermodel, but be assured they're going to have flaws anyway. So it's better just to attract someone that you're going to really, who is fundamentally a good match. You know,
I love it. I love it. Una, you're amazing. I love this. I love doing these shows with you. You're so great. You take on the really hard things, right? You know, that you cannot get from online. You see, you cannot work these things out. And I know you help people, whether it's go online to find this, but you help people get to the place where love is not just a 4-letter word. It also begins inside. So thank you for that. Give out your website. Tell everybody about the free offering. And thank you for today.
Thank you. Yes, you can go to my website, unadrake.com, UNADRAKE.com. You can email me, una@unadrake.com. I'm giving away 5 free mini tarot readings. Just send me an email, una@unadrake.com. And you can also email me about a free relationship clarity session. I'd love to talk with you. Thank you.
And what a great show. And for those of you, what love got to do with it? It's got everything to do with it. Una Drake, everybody. I'm Dr. Pat. Stay tuned for another hour coming up here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. See you next time.
You've been listening to Your Juicy Love with me, Una Drake. Tune in each month as Dr. Pat and I co-host together, creating juicy conversations, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio. I interview amazing guests, and you'll learn how to transform your relationships so you can stay juicy. To learn more about me or to listen to past shows, visit my website at unadrake.com.